You may have noticed a new voice on North Country Public Radio over the last couple weeks. David Escobar has joined our news team as a Report for America Corps member, and there's something really cool and unique about his job. He'll be splitting his time between NCPR and the Adirondack Explorer. He's going to focus on covering diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Adirondacks. Let's meet David Escobar on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com.
Hi, I'm Kara Chapman. It's Wednesday, July 24th. First up, forest rangers managed multiple rescues in the Adirondacks nearly every day last week. Adirondack reporter Emily Russell has the details.
The string of rescues started with two last Monday. A dehydrated hiker had to be airlifted off the trail between Upper and Lower Wolfjaw Mountains. That same day, rangers helped a 53-year-old from Pennsylvania off Rondacks Mountain near Old Forge. There was another rescue on Rondacks the next day when a 51-year-old from the Finger Lakes suffered a lower leg injury. On Thursday, two hikers from Schenectady lost the trail on Buck Mountain near Lake George. There were two more rescues on Friday, one on Ampersand Mountain and another on St. Regis, both near Saranac Lake. Saturday and Sunday were the busiest days for rangers. Just after midnight on Saturday, two Canadians lost their way back to their campsite near the Second Pond boat launch. Later that day, four rangers carried a woman from central New York off Cascade Mountain after she suffered an ankle injury. About an hour later, a ranger in Peru responded to a person who suffered a possible concussion at the Ausable Campground Beach. Rangers also managed three separate incidents on Sunday. Around midnight, campers at Fish Creek reported that a bear had gotten into their food. Later that afternoon, two people kayaking on the Moose River in Herkimer County capsized, though they made it safely back to shore. Rangers also responded to a woman who was unconscious in her car at the Adirondack Mountain Reserve parking lot in Keene Valley on Sunday. The long string of rescues last week also came while rangers were managing a multi-day search for a missing man near Johnsburg in Warren County. As of Wednesday afternoon, the search for the 77-year-old man was still ongoing. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio.
We are very excited here at North Country Public Radio because we have a new reporter. David Escobar joined us this month through Report for America. He'll be reporting on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Adirondacks and splitting his time between us and the Adirondack Explorer. He sat down with Northern Light co-host Monica Sandreski to introduce himself and talk about the stories he'll be focusing on.
To start things off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you grew up and a bit about your family?
Yeah, so I'm originally from San Francisco, California. My folks have been there since the 90s, which is crazy to think about. But I grew up there, moved to New York City when I was 18 for college. I went to Fordham University, go Rams. And I was a journalism major in college. I worked at our school radio station, which is kind of the reason I'm here today. But I am so fortunate that I got that opportunity in college. I mean, I sang a little bit. I was always super into the arts, but journalism has always just kind of held this special place in my heart. I grew up listening to a lot of public radio, and so it's thinking back on it now, thinking about, the little kid that was listening to KQED in his parents' car, now getting to be a reporter in such an interesting, a deeply fascinating part of our country is incredible.
With that love that's brought you into doing it yourself, can you share a bit about your background in journalism? I know you touched on it there about going to Fordham University and working at WFUV.
Mm-hmm. So that's where I like saying I cut my teeth there a lot as a journalist. I walked in there. My boss kind of just put me on the air as an anchor because she was like, I know you can do it. And I had her as a professor at the time, and she was a little too optimistic about my abilities. So, after those first couple weeks, I was like, damn, like I really, really like this, but I need to keep doing this to get better at it, because I was, creating stories in class, but nothing kind of outside the scope of like school news. So I got to just dive headfirst and be a reporter. And, going out into the community and covering, the rise of drag phobia around the country, specifically through the lens of like New York City drag queens, or, covering different like arts and culture beats around New York City, going places, just talking to people about their experiences. And, that was kind of the fun part about being a reporter in New York City. Like, there were just so many things to report on all the time. And, up in the North Country, I don't think that's really going to change, because in my experience so far, everybody has been so open with their lives and with their stories.
Well, speaking of which, you're splitting your time between North Country Public Radio and the Adirondack Explorer, specifically, covering issues facing diverse communities. And how are you thinking about approaching that beat, and why is it important to you?
Yeah, so, as somebody who I kind of identify, I have more or less like a diverse background. My father immigrated here from El Salvador, during the Civil War. And it just, I have all these different perspectives in my life where the things that I'm most interested in covering in the North Country is specifically disability issues for LGBTQIA individuals, especially around the Adirondacks in the North Country, and, people of color and how they kind of navigate this space. Because in our conversations of how I would approach it, in the interview process, one of the big things both newsrooms are very interested in is this idea of, we all kind of know that the Adirondacks are a predominantly white place. So how do all of these diverse communities fit into the fabric of this space? And so what that means is, hopefully going places, finding the people at the margins, kind of helping pull, and uplift communities around, whether that's going to a trail and figuring out how are they making it more accessible for people who can't normally navigate like a trail in a forest or a park, or whether it's going to a restaurant with, a person of color running it, bringing their food to the Adirondacks, right? Like, there are all these different people that are around this park that are trying to make it better. So hopefully through the stories I tell, I can be like a little part of bringing all of those stories to our listeners.
Not just hopefully, of course we're going to do that. It's going to be terrific. Yes. Well, and obviously you're not only a reporter. What do you like to do in your free time?
I mean, I've really, really enjoyed just driving around the park and seeing things, right? Like going on a hike and going for a swim, sitting by the beach and reading. And that has been, as somebody who, lived in cities his whole life and only got to do that on vacation, I genuinely feel like I am on vacation, every second that I am not working while I live here. And that's just been so incredible. So it's kind of, I think my hobbies now are going to be getting back into nature and just going out, meeting people.
That was NCPR's newest reporter, David Escobar. David, a big, big welcome to the NCPR news team. More news all the time at ncpr.org. Music today by Pat Johnson of Athens, Ontario, and Eddie Lawrence of Moira. I'm Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.